What did it take to be the ideal Victorian woman? According to the guides and handbooks I read recently as part of my master's coursework, quite a lot. I wanted to see how hard it would be to follow these guidelines, so I spent a day trying to do that. This video takes inspiration from a trendy genre of video here on YouTube, where people just try things out for a day, popularized, of course, by channels like the Try Guys. And I've been particularly interested in the version of that video that goes historical, like Mythical Kitchen's video of Hank Green trying 100 years of food science, or Rachel Maxey's I Found an 1800s Book of Etiquette video. All of those are linked in the description if you want to check them out next. So today I'm following suit, primarily by using Florence Hartley's Ladies' Book of Etiquette and Isabella Beeton's Book of Household Management to show what the ideal Victorian woman looked and acted like. A quick caveat here, this video is not me trying to replicate every aspect of Victorian life. This is me trying to replicate Victorian values. For women, this meant emphasizing domestic skills, home management, frugality, good hygiene, neatness, appropriate dress, appropriate leisure, delicacy, and politeness. My day will be spent attempting to adhere to these values for women rather than the Victorian aesthetic. And spoiler alert, some of these behavioral prescriptions are very familiar. To make sure I'm doing this right, I created a checklist of everything that I need to do during my day tomorrow. First, I need to wake up early. Isabella Beeton says early rising is one of the most essential qualities which enter into good household management, as it is not only the parent of health, but of innumerable other advantages. Indeed, when a mistress is an early riser, it is almost certain that her house will be orderly and well managed. Then I need to take a cold shower. This is part of good hygiene, according to Beeton, although good hygiene extends beyond just a cold bath, so we need to put that on the list by itself too. Beeton says cleanliness is also indispensable to health and must be studied both in regard to the person and the house and all that it contains. Cold or tepid baths should be employed every morning, unless on account of illness or other circumstances. Then we need to change into appropriate morning dress. Hartley has many rules in her ladies' book about what constitutes appropriate dress. Most of these rules are about politeness. Proper ladies would never offend someone by wearing too extravagant of dress or too slovenly of dress. Next, we have our domestic duties. Beeton's guide emphasizes domestic duties, but from the lens of either a mistress managing a domestic staff or a servant. I'm neither of those things, so the domestic duties fall on me to make sure that they're done and done well. Then we have to change into appropriate walking dress. Hartley's book includes plenty of considerations for what constitutes appropriate dress before dinner. Dinner dress has its own rules and regulations. All of this exists for women to appear polite and to not draw too much attention to themselves. Also considered in this section is the Women's Domestic magazine, which Isabella Beeton's husband actually published, so I'm sure that she could get down with it. But that magazine is useful for considering what fashions, fabrics, and colors were considered acceptable so that I can replicate them in choosing an acceptable outfit. Next on my checklist is making myself a seasonally appropriate lunch. Part of domestic skills, according to Beeton, includes knowing what dishes are in season and how to prepare them well. So I'll be making a dish that's appropriate for the month of May. Then I'm going to leave a calling card at a friend's house. Although women were not as welcome in the public sphere as their husbands or fathers or brothers, politically and economically, they were still expected to represent their household well with polite socializing through dinner parties or visits to their loved ones. One of the ways that they could plan these parties and visits was by leaving calling cards with polite requests. Calling cards are pretty outdated in the modern day, and I could just send a text message to a friend asking to hang out, but I'm gonna do the calling card because it feels like it better matches the values of politeness, and it also emphasizes the domestic skill of letter writing. Then on our agenda, we've got some appropriate leisure time planned. There were, believe it or not, tons of activities that women weren't supposed to do. In the evening, since I'm not hosting or attending a dinner party, I'll need to fill my time with some hobby or activity that would be appropriate for a Victorian lady to be doing. And then lastly, and this isn't a time-driven checklist item, just a general all-day thing, I need to keep a good temper. Beaton and Hartley both have scripture about women keeping a polite tone, never discussing their husbands' or family's failings with outsiders, avoiding gossip, and staying calm in response to small trifles. Beaton believed that a woman's temper could affect the environment of her entire home, so it was important that they stayed polite and calm. So, checklist complete. This is everything that I need to do, and let's go ahead and do it.
Morning. It's 6:27. I did set an alarm for 4:50 in the morning, and it's just been going off for the last hour and a half. But I think 6:30 is still early enough. So I'm gonna go take a cold shower.
How about some cold water?
I hated everything about that. I thought that I would feel more awake. And I don't. I just feel cold. I don't know if the Victorians wore sunscreen, but I'm gonna. These are probably slightly more advanced than the Victorian version. That can't be helped. This certainly is not historically accurate, but I need it. I also don't know how many Victorians were trying to get real buff. Victorian ladies, that is. I'm trying to get buff. Thanks. Sweaty just brought this to me. I have to do something with my hair now. And I'm not working with a ton. Let the hair be always smooth and becomingly arranged, which I'm assuming means not what I have right now. I feel like
the modern kind of equivalent of that would be like a slick back bun. So that's what I'm gonna do. I feel like this is good enough. Normally I'd put on jewelry right now. That's not a thing for morning dress or afternoon dress. That's an evening thing. So we'll skip that. I'm debating if I want to put on like the tiniest bit of makeup. Hold on, I'm gonna just stand here and think. I'm gonna put on a little bit. Just final look. Oops, that's not very becoming. On to the next thing. It's time for morning dress. And I have got quite a long list of things that I need to be looking for in my morning dress today. Beaton says it must not be too expensive for my purse. I shop at Old Navy mostly. That won't be a problem. That it harmonizes with my complexion and figure. That seems a little bit more up for interpretation. Generally, I don't buy clothes that I think don't look good on me. Its tint must also allow of its being worn with other garments, which I'm reading that and I'm kind of picturing just like neutrals. Since it's breakfast time, I should be dressed very neat and simple with no ornaments. Or at least to be well dressed, I have to dress in a way where people cannot remember what I wear, which that for me in the modern day means that actually I can't dress in a full kind of replica Victorian dress because that would draw attention. My dress needs to be suitable for the occasion because it would be offensive to be either too elaborate or too slovenly. Luckily, I'm spending my morning alone, so I don't think that I'm going to offend anyone if I get it slightly wrong, but I'll try not to. I must avoid oddity or eccentricity. Okay, I should probably look for long sleeves then. So it's morning, we want morning dress. Hartley says the most suitable dress for breakfast is a wrapper made to fit the figure loosely. Its material should be of chintz, gingham, brilliant, or muslin. I don't know what these are. Okay, what is gingham? Is a lightweight, balanced, plain woven fabric typically made from dyed cotton or cotton blends. It's plaid. It just looks plaid. This seems like a tablecloth type material, so I'll try and replicate that. I have this thing. This almost looks, this is like a neutral and almost kind of the gingham texture or pattern. What is this made out of? Okay, well this is 55% polyester and 45% rayon, but I think that it's neutral enough that I can wear it. And it kind of has like a gingham feel and color. And I don't think that it draws too much attention. It's not a wrap. It's not a dress. It's just a coat jacket thing. I have this like longer skirt that I think matches relatively. It's a neutral color. This also is not the right fabric, I'm gonna guess. Well, this one's 24% cotton, so I think I'll wear maybe these two together. Why are you so high up there? Get down. Hey, get down from there. This is the most ridiculous looking thing that I've worn in a minute. So we've got this jacket that I'm wearing as a shirt. It looks like gingham fabric. It's not. Can you tell how uncomfortable I am because I'm doing all of these weird movements? Then I got this neutral skirt on, some pockets. There is an issue with this skirt, and that's that it has pretty high side slits. Probably would be frowned upon. I don't have much else that's going to work for this, but it is long sleeve, so it's covering most of my tattoos, and I'll just be sure that anytime I talk to a gentleman that I cover the other one by crossing my hands. Do I look very casual and normal right now? Yeah. dog for a few minutes. It's breakfast time. Whoa, why at such an angle? Oops. It's breakfast time. Usually, am I at an angle the other way now? It's breakfast time. Usually, I would accompany my morning meal by watching YouTube videos, but that's not gonna fly today. So I'm gonna eat this meal in complete silence. Okay, quick editor's note here, because I didn't explain it while I was talking. The reason why watching YouTube videos isn't gonna fly today is because most of the YouTube videos that I watch are about politics or public life in some other way. That was the fastest that I've eaten in a minute. I just wanted to get it over with. I didn't even know what I was thinking about just then. I feel like my brain went nowhere. So I had my breakfast, which means now I need to, quote, make a round of the kitchen and other offices to see that all are in order and that the morning's work has been properly performed by the various domestics. Believe it or not, I don't have a domestic service, so this is all on me, which means, oh, that's not very, or what is it? What is it supposed to be? Something and something else. Oh no. Okay, let's go fix my hair so I'm a proper Victorian woman. Better? Yes. Cleaning time. Okay, I just finished cleaning. Now I need to actually go outside of my house, take my dog for a walk, which means I have to change into appropriate attire because my morning dress isn't gonna cut it. So I have rules for my walking dress that I gotta follow. Here they are. Hartley says it should be in good taste and of quiet colors and never conspicuous. No black unless somber occasion. So we're back to the neutrals, I think. I need a bonnet of white crepe with a bunch of feathers at the side and trimmed with white blonde. I don't have that, I'll tell you right now. I need a dress of white muslin with a double shawl of the same material. I'm just gonna see if I have any muslin in here at all. Okay, so I went through my entire closet. I don't have any muslin, but I looked it up online, like a good Victorian would. And this person, Remy Porter on Reddit, says a muslin substitute could basically be, quote, a cheap-ass cotton. And I do have cotton. I have a cotton dress. There's an issue with it, though. It's not long enough. That's just something that I think we're going to have to make do with. But it also doesn't have long sleeves. And I need long sleeves to cover up my eccentricities. So I think I'm going to, it's like, I cannot stress enough. It is like 85 degrees here right now. But I think I'm going to wear this with a turtleneck to walk my dog, which should be really good fun. Starting to feel like you have a superiority complex. Why do you always have to be above me? Huh? Why are you up there? So, this is what I'm gonna wear to walk my dog, because I'll be in public, so it matters more, kind of. There are some things that I'm missing that I need to add to my look here. I need boots sufficiently strong and thick, and I need to wear always neat, nicely fitting gloves. Let me go find boots. Boots. The only pair of gloves that I have besides my snow gloves, which are like purple, and certainly would not harmonize with this, I don't think. But the only pair of gloves that I have are my gardening gloves. So now I have to decide, do I want to wear gardening gloves or do I want to skip out on the gloves, which were probably pretty important in Victorian culture. I think I'm going to wear the gardening gloves, but it's going to look ridiculous. Okay, this is the final look. I got my gloves covering my dainty little hands. This is ridiculous, and it actually is probably going to be hard to walk my dog with these on. So if you see later snips with me with my gloves off, don't tell anyone. So anyways, I'm going to walk my dog. Let's get him ready to go. Are you coming or not? Come on, let's go. Do you need help? Come on, sweaty, you gotta help these people. Are you twins? I already took the gloves off. I got pissed off because I couldn't get back in my door. But here are the rules for walking. I must not walk fast. I must move slowly and gracefully. Don't drag my feet. Set my feet down lightly but firmly. Carry my head up, but without too much tension. Otherwise, I'll look like a drill sergeant. Erect but easy and elegant. Don't swing my arms. Okay, got it. Don't ever shuffle across the street to avoid oncoming traffic. Never stop to speak to a gentleman in the street. That one I can get down with. Don't gaze into shop windows. Never look backwards. Only look to the right if I'm turning to the right. Okay. I'll try. They're doing construction on my street, which means there's like so many people. And now I just have kept the garden gloves off. Don't want to draw too much attention to myself. I'm a Victorian lady. I'm going to show you my walk. Okay, that one felt right. It's so hot. I'm really hot. Kind of not having fun. We ran into a problem. I I don't remember reading anything in the etiquette guide about how a Victorian lady would clean up her dog's shit. I'm coming up to my first right turn, which means I will be able to turn my head. I did it. I turned right. Okay, so we're back home, and there was a group of gentlemen that did speak to me, and so, how do I want to put this? There was a group of gentlemen that did speak to me, but they spoke to me first, so according to the etiquette guide, I could talk to them, but I didn't record that because I was embarrassed, so I'm gonna reenact it right now. Over here is me and Sweaty, and over here is a group of like 6 construction worker type dudes. And so me and Sweaty are walking, and I'm looking straight ahead, not giving them any sort of attention. And then I get right here-ish, and one of them goes, "Good morning, miss." And so I went, "Good morning," and then continued walking straight. Oh, and the other thing that you missed was I cleaned up dog poop, and well, I can reenact that for you too. I tried to do it how I imagined a Victorian lady would, which was poop on the ground right here, we can pretend, and then I got my little bag on my hand, and I went like this. But I wasn't swinging my arms. I made sure not to do that. Look back on the footage. Something on my agenda for later today is to go call upon my friend. I'm going to drive all the way over to their place, and then I'm just going to leave a calling card on the door basically saying that I stopped by and that we can hang out at some point. So I think right now I'm going to go ahead and make that card. I can't drop it off until after I eat lunch because Beaton says that that's a post-lunch activity. I know that Victorian ladies probably didn't drive vehicles, so that's not going to be accurate, but I can't walk there. That's not going to happen today. It's too hot, and it's too far. Okay, I got my calling card. I got a tiny index and some markers. It's not very pretty. It says, "Good morning, Cassie. I'm making a YouTube video. Watch later for context. I'll send you a link. Miss ya," and then my name. So I didn't put my address on here because I don't really want you guys to know my address, to be honest, but also because I wrote too big and I ran out of space. It's lunchtime, baby. I'm gonna make lunch. Just for me. I'm the only one here, so it's just gonna be for me. There are also rules for meals, and Beaton has kind of recommendations for what you should try to cook according to each month. Poultry options, chicken is in season, and I have chicken, so I can use that. Early potatoes are in season. I don't know what an early potato is, but I have potato stuff, so I can make potato stuff. She also says carrots are in season, and I have carrots in my fridge right now that I need to get rid of. So I'm gonna make a meal according to May recommendations with chicken, potato, and carrot. I finished cooking. I did that off camera. I thought it would be boring. I present to you my Victorian cuisine. Chicken and potatoes and carrots for the month of May. I'm gonna go eat this in silence again. You can come. According to the manual, I need to eat delicately, kind of, which means in really small pieces. So I had to cut this all up as I'm eating. I'm not totally sure how to eat a carrot with a fork. Can I even do that? Forgot to turn the oven off. Now that I've eaten lunch, it's not dinner yet, and typically, I guess when you were going to visit friends, you would kind of visit them for more business stuff in the morning, and then for more friendly stuff for dinner. And it's not dinner time, but it is after lunch. So I'm gonna go drop off the calling card that I made earlier at my friend's place. I'm dressed and ready to go out again. I lost my keys. Okay, I found my keys. I'm dressed and ready to go out again. Got my boots back on. I'm leaving the gloves because I didn't use them at all for the walk. And to be honest, they just kind of pissed me off. Okay. I'm in my car. Very historically accurate representation of Victorian life right now. Got my calling card, and I'm gonna go drop it off. Okay, parked. Ooh, sorry. Okay, low key, that was kind of cute and fun. That felt kind of cute and fun. All right, we are back home for the day. I did all of the things really on my list. So my day really is almost over. It's 2:40 p.m. right now. So it's time for me to start winding down. I think I'm just going to read. That's my plan. But it has to be an appropriate book. The other thing that I get to do now, because I'm not expecting any visitors this evening, I don't have to put on my dinner dress. It partly says that the dress worn in the morning is suitable. Back in my morning dress. I'm ready to read. All right, you guys are crooked as hell, actually. Nope, now you're crooked the other way. So you're on my bookshelf. I'm gonna go through some options. Borrowing these from my friend. Shout out Teddy. And I really want to read them, but there's a few problems. One, it's about magic. Says it right there. And I think that they're like based on magic. If the French Revolution were magic, or like somehow they're related to the French Revolution or inspired by it. And I don't know that a real ideal Victorian lady would get away with reading a book about magic inspired by the French Revolution. So I think that this is a no-go, even though I do really want to read it right now. The only thing that I see on my bookshelf that I think genuinely match Victorian kind of values for women is probably Marie Kondo's books. I've got The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, I've got Spark Joy, and I've got Joy at Work, and all of these are about kind of like organization. If you don't know Marie Kondo, I feel like everybody does at this point. I think that these are going to be my best bet. Okay, I read one. I'm gonna move on to Spark Joy, but I kind of actually feel like I could just take a nap right now, and I don't know if I'll read all of this one. I'm only on page 33, but I think I'm gonna call it here. I do have work that I need to do that I've been putting off all day to kind of run this experiment, which means that I'm not spending a true full day. I'm only spending, but I mean like a full work day, because I woke up at 6:30 and it's a couple minutes past 4 right now. So I spent a full work day doing this, and that's enough. And listen to me, and listen, that's enough. I feel like I learned what I needed to from this. I am almost certain that I failed. Yeah, I don't have like the means to do a lot of the things that Victorian women were kind of being told that they should be doing, especially by other middle and upper class Victorian women. I don't have the ability to kind of stay at home and take care of domestic stuff all day, but I also certainly don't have servants that could do that either. And I do have to work. I can't really afford to take a whole day to kind of do hobbies and like learn domestic skills. Just not a super accessible ideal for me now, and also definitely for Victorian women themselves. Not every single Victorian woman had access to a team of domestic servants, and not every Victorian woman was able to just live their life without having a job. Wanna say bye? You can come up here. You wanna come up? Whoa! Okay, guys. Sweaty also says bye. Okay, see you tomorrow. Hello again. I just finished editing the portion of the video where I was actually trying to act in accordance with Victorian lady values for a day. And now I want to take a little bit of time to reflect on that experience. Why did I do this, and what did I learn? So I'm currently taking a class on Victorianism, and something that's come up a lot in that class is this idea of sources that are prescriptive or sources that are descriptive, which is the idea that some sources aren't necessarily saying what happened, but what they believe should have happened. And I wanted to explore these prescriptions for women in the 1800s. Prescriptions in etiquette guides and domestic manuals are really interesting because they can shine some light on what Victorian values for women were: domesticity, delicacy, neatness, and politeness. Women, in an idealized form, would have stayed home and managed the household, including all of the finances and the domestic staff. They would have been expected to be mothers and to raise their children. They were expected to behave appropriately, never lewd, never independent. They were supposed to keep to the private spaces of the house while their husbands represented them in public life. And I think my experience yesterday shows that I did have some trouble matching the ideal for good temper and politeness, but me failing at matching a lot of these different prescriptions was not necessarily because I was trying to complete them 200 years later. It's because the prescriptions themselves rely on a level of accessibility that wasn't available then and isn't available now. What I mean is, Victorian women often couldn't meet the ideal version of what a woman was supposed to be either. I offer two pieces of evidence to explain this. The first is Lord Ashley's address about women factory workers, which was something he saw as a huge problem for Victorian England. He wrote this piece as factory owners were starting to hire more women in the factories, which they did primarily for two reasons. One, they could pay women less, and two, women had smaller hands that could better fit into all of the detailed new machinery. Lord Ashley was pretty upset by this tendency from factory owners to hire women into these workspaces. He thought that encouraging women to go work outside of the home interrupted a kind of naturalized providential decree about domestic responsibility. Here's a fun quote that demonstrates that. Where, sir, under this condition, the condition being women having jobs in factories, where under this condition are the possibilities of domestic life? How can its obligations be fulfilled? Regard the woman as wife or mother, how can she accomplish any portion of her calling? And if she cannot do that which Providence has assigned her, what must be the effect on the whole surface of society? So going back to the idea of prescription versus description in historical sources, Lord Ashley's piece actually demonstrates a bit of both. It's prescriptive in that he says women should not be working in factories, but it's descriptive because clearly they were, otherwise he wouldn't be writing any of this. And this piece is useful because it tells us something about women who did not meet, either by choice or necessity, the ideal version of womanhood being prescribed to them in sources like Beaton's Guidebook and Hartley's Ladies' Manual. I also read Hannah Colwick's diary. Hannah Colwick was not a middle or upper class woman with access to time and financial security. That meant she had to work. She wouldn't have had the time to read an appropriate book or learn domestic skills for 2 hours like I did yesterday, nor would she have had as much time to socialize with friends and leave calling cards or to oversee the domestic staff, because Hannah Colwick was the domestic staff. And her diary is filled with story after story of her failing to meet this standard because it was simply not accessible to her, even if she had wanted to meet it. So all of this to say, women were supposed to be these domestic, delicate creatures who belonged in the household, while men were their public-facing counterpart. But that wasn't always the case. Actually, mostly it wasn't the case, especially in urban areas. And if you're interested in exploring this idea further, Joan Burston's Victorian Education and the Ideal of Womanhood would be a good next place to look. That work includes these two very telling images comparing the kind of middle class ideal for domestic life to the working class reality for many women. And I know that it can be kind of funny at times to look back at these etiquette guides and household manuals because parts of them feel so outdated and so distinctly Victorian. But the reason this topic is particularly of interest to me right now is because of modern rhetoric that tells women what we're supposed to behave like, what we're capable of, who we're supposed to be, which mimics almost to a T so many of the domestic and delicate requests of Victorian women almost 200 years ago. Lord Ashley, in his address, for example, discusses at length the importance of limiting women factory workers so that England can restore a moral order decreed by Providence. That moral order, of course, stated that women were naturally different than men, and that we were supposed to occupy a different space. Women factory workers disrupted that alleged natural order in a way that made Lord Ashley pretty anxious. But here are two modern TikTok videos echoing a similar sentiment.
If you want a career along being a wife and a mother, that is great. But being a wife and a mother should be your top priority always. And that is what is so great about this movement. Order is coming back into place in a chaotic world.
I believe that men were created naturally smarter, stronger, and more capable than the average woman. I believe God designed them that way with a purpose. They're made to take care of us, provide for us, protect us. In the Bible, it says God created us as the weaker vessel. And personally, I love that scripture. I think it's so cute.
I hope you notice that both of these creators appealed to this idea of a natural moral order where women are caregivers and domestic creatures meant to be provided for. But these are only two examples of the many behavioral ideas that women are still prescribed every day. In addition to them, you shouldn't cuss, you talk too loud, women are meant to be seen and not heard, you shouldn't be working, you shouldn't lift weights, women belong in the house, but if they do work, then they're still expected to take care of the house, you should know how to cook, you're meant to have and raise children. The list goes on. But as much as people like to shell them out, these prescriptions aren't any more accessible today than they were 200 years ago. The tradwife movement on social media, which really echoes a lot of Victorian sentiments about a woman's place in society, relies on women having access to abundant free time and financial security. If you need to work alongside your husband, you've already been cut from this ideal. Professor Neal has a great short video explaining this that I want to reference really quickly.
This morning I asked my toddlers what they wanted for breakfast, and they both said cereal, so cereal it was, and we got started right away.
Have you ever asked yourself why it is that tradwives and other conservative female influencers who promote traditional gender roles have all the time in the world to make cereal from scratch, but somehow never seem to record themselves doing essential domestic labor like vacuuming, trying to get a particularly nasty stain out of a shirt, or scrubbing a toilet? When they are performing labor in these videos, it's always something that, strictly speaking, is unnecessary, and they are doing it the hardest way possible. Because the answer is that it is for show. It is all a performance. In his remarkably prescient 1899 book, The Theory of the Leisure Class, Thorsten Veblen coined the terms conspicuous consumption and conspicuous leisure, suggesting that those with wealth and power, no longer having any economic production to contribute themselves, instead contribute to the production and consumption of leisure. Those consumption practices, those leisure activities, are conspicuous precisely because that is how the leisure class signals their difference from the working class, signals their exceptionality and their superiority.
But I don't say all of this to make you feel hopeless about a woman's position in society, or to convince you that truly all women are meant for is some form of defunct domesticity. I say this because although behavioral prescriptions are historical, opposition to them is historical too. Women have been ignoring these prescriptions and ideals just as long as they've existed, and we can continue to ignore them today. All of the primary sources that I used to inform this video are linked in a Google Sheet in the description below. Also in that sheet are several secondary sources that informed a lot of my understanding about working class women and cultural prescriptions in the Victorian period. And linked in the description are just a few of the videos that inspired this one, including Rachel Maxey's. I'll see you next time.